Hello, everyone out there. Welcome to the very first episode of Live and Real, a show for the SOULED community and beyond. My name is Adina Stillerman. I'm co-founder of Yehudi in Florida and a senior educator for Partners in Torah.
I'm Shoshana. My prize occupation is that I'm the mother to 6 adorable children ranging from 5 to 16, but on a professional level, I am the regional director of Moor Philadelphia, which encompasses the University of Pennsylvania, Temple, Drexel, and NAU, a new young professional division with the Chevra, and I am also national program director of my Gifted Mikvah USA's education division. So happy to be here.
Hi, my name is Yafa Palti. I live in Miami, Florida. I am a motivational speaker and addictions professional, a relationships coach, and I am so honored to be here with all of you tonight and with all of my fellow panel SOULED sisters.
Hi, I'm Jackie Glazer, and I am a life coach, former Today Show psychologist, and now the Director of Leadership Development for Alami. And we're so excited to join you tonight and hopefully talk about some really exciting hot topics.
So first say a quick hello to everybody because you're my friends, and it's great that we get to be together in the same room, even though this is what it takes to get us together, right?
Yeah, totally. Corona.
I told you when we were in pre-production that I'm so envious. We have all of you are in beautiful weather. I'm in freezing cold Philly. You're in LA, 2 in Florida. I want to join you right now in your warm weather.
My palm trees to the left of me. Thought I would just make you guys jealous, but Yap and I, we share the same weather. So tonight, we're going to be talking about a challenging subject, truthfully. For me personally, is there life after death? It's a subject that seems to take up a lot of space in people's minds today, especially lately, because the country's experiencing so much loss of precious life. So I'm going to put a quote up on the screen to get this show on the road, just to get the wheels in our heads turning on the subject. So why is it that loss plays such an important role in how we value things? Why is it that loss of health makes us appreciate our faculties, right, Jackie? Loss of life makes you appreciate the life that you actually have now. Have you experienced loss of a loved one? I want to keep thinking about this as we open up the subject of life after death. But Shoshana, I want to kick it off with you tonight. Are you there?
I am here.
Okay, so is there some type of experience after death?
Okay, so it's very interesting that this is what we're opening up our live show with, this topic of life after death. But these past 6 months have been so intense for so many of us, with the challenges of Corona and COVID, loss of jobs, the different stresses that we have had. We come to think about, what is this life really all about? And is there more than just life as we know it in this existence? So for tonight, I want to turn to each of you to really get an understanding of what life is in this world as we understand it. What does Judaism view the concept of life after death? So ladies, let's get started and let's get real. Adina, can you tell me what Judaism's view is about life after death?
Okay, I don't know if you want to really start with me, Shoshana, because when we were having conversations about this subject, I was actually very hesitant. Why are we starting off this whole series where it's supposed to be relatable and meaningful? I'm just being real. I hope Jackie's not going to get really upset about this, but it's not a subject that I think about on a regular basis. It's not a burning issue on my mind. And I think that the fact, and this is something that I was taught from a very young age when I started my Jewish journey, that the reason why the Torah doesn't open up with these unverifiable promises similar, that other religions open up with, where it's very much about, if you are good in this world, then you'll get many promises in the next world. The Torah, you won't find it in there. And I think that that's really something that speaks to me personally, because it's all about this life. It's about how to treat your spouse. It's about how to treat your kids. It's about how to deal with business. It's about real human struggles in this world. And the Torah does make promises for things that will happen in this world. And so I don't think you want to start with me, truthfully, because I don't really. I'm here to learn and listen from you guys why you wanted this to be the subject that we open up this series with, truth be told, in terms of life after death. So shove it to someone else.
Oh, well, thank you, Adina, for that wonderful introduction.
Sorry that I'm just you, and I know we got to know each other beforehand, but
the vibes that I might have with who is going to give a better answer, just like Adina. Is it going to be Jackie? Is it going to be Yafa? Let's go to Jackie. Jackie, do you have anything to tell us about life after death?
Yes, I love this topic. I love this topic because people ask me about it all the time. They want to know what happens after you die. It's like it's on people's minds. They want to know. And I think that it's just fascinating. You know, we hear about near-death experiences and what people experience. And I think the Jewish view talks about the fact that we exist after we die. It's very, very clear that we exist after we die. And the whole point of this life is to be here to have a soul correction of some sort, like to correct something in our soul, to actualize our potential, and to achieve a certain purpose that every person is here to do, as well as give back, you know, to the greater world. And I think that the afterlife, the idea of like, so what do I experience in the afterlife? I experience the results of what I've done on this planet. Like, what have I actually done during my lifetime? And that's what I get to experience in the afterlife. So it makes sense in a way of this world, if that makes sense. And I think that, you know, when you go on a vacation and you've done all your work and then you go on a vacation, you finally get on the beach and you're like, I would always like beach holiday kind of families. And then you get on the beach and you're like, and like you let go of everything you've worked so hard before that to do. And you get on that vacation and you're just left to be with whatever is currently going on in your life, but you don't have to do anything. So it says that that's like a hint of the afterlife, that we finish this lifetime of working on ourselves to build who we're meant to be. And then there's this like being with whatever you've created yourself to be. And I think that idea of the afterlife makes sense of this life, if that makes sense.
But Jackie, can I just ask you a very quick question to clarify that? Just very quickly, because what I feel is important to note is that you said that if there's this life and then there's afterlife, which is like a vacation. But the vacation is not real. And if people live from vacation to vacation, if they're like building up everything just so that they can do absolutely nothing and be on vacation, I don't think it's healthy. I'm not challenging the beauty of the subject. I'm just wondering why it's something that you put in the forefront of your mind, that you wanted to open up everything that we're about to discuss for the next few weeks that we're together when it comes to soul and afterlife. That was just my only challenge. But
that's a great question for Jackie. But I think, do you know who the person can answer that? Yafa, I think you're the perfect person to lead in and tell us a little bit that it's not just about the, sorry. Welcome to my life.
Life and real. Let's get real.
All right, but the truth is that I think, Yafa, you're the person, because so much of what Jackie spoke about encompasses a duality within us in this vacation mode. And that duality, Yafa, I think you'll agree, has to do with the soul and body. Can you explain to us a little bit about the soul and body in Judaism and what that has to do with the afterlife?
Yeah, I love that you think of me when it comes to vacation. You think just because I live in Miami, I'm always on vacation? So here's the thing. So, you know, it's interesting, and I'll tell you why perhaps this was a conversation opener and the series starter, because the truth is that when it comes to afterlife, when it comes to the soul and the body, when it comes to heaven and hell, whatever word you want to use, whatever word you're familiar with, whether or not, you know, they are exactly in Judaism the way it's portrayed to be, which it isn't, by the way. You know, we have this image of like afterlife, heaven and hell. It's a specific place. We have these cartoon images. Either you see the angels or you see the flames and you're like, you know, what is that? Where are we going? What's happening? And the truth is that isn't really accurate. Heaven and hell, or afterlife, whatever you want to call it, is not a concept. It's not a place that you go to. It's something you experience based on the results of who you have become in this world. It's not a separate place. So for example, and this, I think we can all really relate to this because I thought about it so much over quarantine, this idea of living in the reality that you create and how we can understand afterlife from this. Because if, we were all cooped up now with our families, right? And somebody who has a great marriage and a great dynamic at home, what was quarantine like for them? It was heaven.
Oh, I like that.
Somebody who has a difficult marriage or a difficult dynamic at home, what was quarantine like for them? It was hell, right? No. It's exactly, right? It's just a reality of what we create for ourselves in this world. And that's why it's important, like when you think, oh, we're jumping to afterlife, we're jumping to the next world, why aren't we living in this world? It's all connected. You can't have one without the other. And that's why we have to understand that we're bodies and souls. We're not just bodies. And I think most people in the world would probably agree to this. Whether or not they end up living their lives as bodies or souls, they probably we live more like bodies than souls. I mean, I do sometimes. Sometimes I feel like I relate more to the body. We speak body fluently, but we know that we're souls, and the body is real and the soul is real. They're both very, very real. But the question we need to ask ourselves, this is a question that I try to ask myself, is which one is really me? Am I really my body or am I really my soul? Right? One of them, as long as we know this, and this, by the way, is the essence of Jewish philosophy. Which one has superiority over the other? The body or the soul? To have an understanding that the soul is the essence of who we are, and the body, come on, the body, which one of you, Shoshana, Jackie, Adina, which one of you still have the same body you had when you were 18 or 20? Right? Come on. Sometimes I feel like I want to move to Mars. Like, no.
Tell me something. Are you saying that our soul lives on forever, but our body ceases to exist? Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly it. The body is finite. There's a limit to the body. We all, obviously, we know this, but the soul is infinite. So
infinite. So let's discuss that infinity, because for most of us, obviously you ladies know what you're talking about, but for most of us coming into Judaism, we don't even know what that infinity means. So what I love, why I think it's so important and so wonderful we're starting out our conversation about life after death, is because understanding that there's more to the here and now than just what exists means that my actions have an infinite nature to them. And as a result of an infinite nature, it means that perhaps I have an infinite nature. So hello, you can see what I see? Yeah? Okay. Fine.
So live and real.
Okay.
Exactly. The theme is let's get real. Shoshana, you are getting real.
It's your infinite reward.
I think we're more real than it with the case. Okay. So like this, all right? What actually happens life after death? So if I have a body, this body of mine is essentially an encasement for what my soul is. There's actually 5 aspects of a soul. We don't have to speak about that today. But the part of our soul, do you want to see really real? Should I
imagine how you're... Look, Shoshana, okay. They're actually...
We're just going to go with it, all live and real. Yes. Okay, come here, Mrs. You want to be part of the action? Come here. Hold on one second. Let's get you out of bed. Come sitting here. We're just going to do the best we can. Okay.
Me too.
So,
like today, can't feed them, join them.
Okay, we're going to keep going on, but you be quiet, okay? Shh, you're going to think to be quiet. So, this soul of ours, the soul that is the most loftiest part of ourselves, that is connected to God, is the soul which is called the neshama. For most people, when we speak about a soul, they think, where does your soul exist? My soul, my emotions, it's in my heart. But it's not. Our soul that lasts forever actually hovers in our head. And this soul is what exists in infinite nature. When we die, what ends up happening is that our soul ascends to the heavens, and that is what lives on forever. So the question we have to ask, which most of us don't necessarily know, is what is heaven? What is the Jewish view of heaven? What is the Jewish view of purgatory, which in non-Jewish understanding, Hollywood, Christianity, maybe it's called hell. What we call it in Judaism is called Gehenna. Now, for most of us, if I was to ask any one of you ladies, how does Hollywood depict hell? It's down under, very cold. It's very cold, very hot, and it's something that is like we don't want to go to. But Judaism's view of purgatory is really like a spiritual car wash. It's our soul going through a process where we are able to correct and rectify everything we did wrong in this world so that our infinite existence can enjoy, just like Jackie said, the pleasures of lying on a beach. And who doesn't want to be cleansed in their life? Okay, ladies, I'm going to let you take over from here. Maybe pick up on that point a little bit while I calm things down. Okay, bye. I'm signing off for a second.
Continue on.
You know what? That is Shoshana. If you want, you could put your camera off. Whatever's good for you.
She just earned her afterlife in that moment. With patience, like that was just awesome. Yes. I would never do like that.
You know what, ladies? I have to say that no matter how real we try to get, we know we have an audience of many, many people tuning in right now, and it doesn't feel real. And I just feel like Shoshana's kids did us a favor.
Right, you made it really real.
And they're like, "Come on, get real." But it just I think it drives my point home in the sense that, like, every day I really go through working out how I can be a better person in this life, and maybe I just enjoy the benefits that I get in this life, and I enjoy feeling it. And I think one of the I'm hearing where it comes from, and I feel a little silly because the passion that you guys have when you talk about the subject of the afterlife. Jackie, you're like lit up when it was your turn to speak, and talking about the soul. The soul is so real in this world. The soul has the hands to hug, it has the lips to be able to kiss our little ones, it has our mouth to be able to teach the world. And when my little moments of pleasure in this world are the things that are usually in the forefront of my mind. Like when I don't yell at my child for something, I feel like that is the greatest reward. I go to sleep at night and I think I need a pat on the back and an award on the left shoulder. I feel great about myself because I made a good choice in this world. And
what's so remarkable, Adina, come back, ladies. What's so remarkable is that strength that you exerted, that effort that you exerted in this world with your children by not yelling at them, just like me right now, that is something that eternally one day you'll be rewarded for. That's the magnificence of Judaism's view of the life as we understand it here, what is called Olam Hazeh, this world, and Olam Haba, the world to come. But let's move right along because there's more to be speaking about on this topic. Jackie, I'm sure you must have something personal, some story for us that you can share. We are live and real to highlight the ideas that we're speaking about here with life and death.
Yeah, well, I think that I agree with Adina with your perspective of like it's about this world and it's about the focus is on this world. And I think that the afterlife comes up if you've lost someone, near and dear, anyone close, family, friends, grandparents, parents. And I think for me, the reason why I resonated with it so much, because I wanted to understand the bigger picture, was because I lost my father when I was 17. We're really getting real and live. And I wasn't at all connected to anything Jewish, nothing. I knew nothing about anything Jewish, so I had no framework. And I didn't really know anything about what was real and what was possible and if there really was an afterlife or anything. And the strangest thing was that I felt always a connection to my father as if he was still alive, but like in another country, as if you just couldn't see him. And the connection of the love was so real that it was so alive that it really was a bizarre experience and feeling, and I couldn't really describe it. But many years later, when I learned the Jewish view, like we're talking about now, it was so comforting. And it was so, it made so much sense. And it made sense of this life a lot more too, as well as obviously comforting that someone you love is still in existence and the connection is still live and real. And then it begged the question, which I know we're going to go on to talk about, well, how can I affect them? How can I have more connection with them if they're not in this world, which I know we're going to talk about later. But the idea that afterlife means that they're still alive and there's still that connection was very comforting to me. And it also put a much bigger perspective around what we're doing here in this planet to value this life. And I just thought that was really cool. It inspired me to give me so much purpose, you know, and to then focus on what I'm doing on this planet, but know that my Father is still there and watching over me, and we're still connected, and I still feel that connection all the time. I'm gonna make me tear up. It's like I really, when I tune into it, I really feel it, and it's a good feeling, and I feel like I also always knew that I'm gonna see him again. Like I'm going to see him again. Like I also knew that. And it's like, but I didn't know any other details. Look at me, I'm already tearing, around how, why, how does it work? And I think that's what Judaism comes to give some really powerful answers to.
And not only that, Becky, if you
has your father ever come to you in a dream?
Say
it again.
Has your father ever come to you in a dream?
Yeah.
Really?
But not
how did it feel?
Also real, like he was really visiting. Not, you know, it's happened like 2 or 3 times in my life where I felt like it was real, but you don't often know, is it my dream? Is it real? Is it like, I didn't know, but I found out many years later that also loved ones can come and communicate through dreams as well. Yeah.
Jackie, what must be very comforting as well is for you to realize that not only does your father's soul live on, but your actions in this world directly impact him when you're doing positive things because you're his daughter. I guess what we call mitzvahs, positive actions, commandments, aspects of spiritual connections. You have the ability to elevate your father's soul. That must give you some comfort.
It's wild. It's wild that you could still have a relationship with someone who's passed into the afterlife by what you do. Like that's also like amazing. Like usually when someone dies, well, before I do the Jewish view, we'd light a candle, you say a prayer, or you do stuff for your own mourning, which is not bad. It's good. But I never knew that what I do could actually affect them, right? As opposed to me. So that was really beautiful.
Yeah, I experienced something similar when I lost my father 9 years ago. So I remember like the weirdest thing for me was after burial, when it suddenly hit me that he can see everything I do now. I mean, I assumed, we don't know exactly how it works, but I felt like, does he see everything I do now? Like he respected me so much. He had so much pride in who I was. And now he sees me lose my patience, and now he sees me get angry. And it was very difficult for me. I was like, I don't want him to see this part of me, you know? And that part was hard for me. And I tried to change my perspective a little bit and say, like, if he could see me lose my patience, maybe he also sees this act of kindness that I'm doing, and maybe he's pleased with that also. But it's kind of, you know, you don't know, the feeling of it is weird, you know? I also have an embarrassing story. When my father was on his deathbed, he was dying. We were told he had like 2 hours left. That's what they told us in the hospital. And I had a newborn baby at the time. And I remember clearly, so we have in Jewish law, during the year of after you lose a parent, there are certain laws, and part of those, we don't go to events and listen to music, and we don't buy new clothing because there's a certain sense of mood that we're still supposed to be feeling. And I remember panicking. He had 2 hours left to live, and I thought, oh my God, I need a new wig. Okay, I wear a wig as part of the Jewish law for married women. And I said, I need a new wig. I can't buy one for an entire year. I had my brand new baby. I grabbed him, I borrowed someone's car because I didn't even have mine there. I ran to the nearest wig salon and I said, I need to buy a wig immediately. My father's dying. I need a wig this second. I was like in another planet. I was like so lost and confused. And they put it on my head. 10 minutes later, I get a phone call from the hospital. He's like literally has 3 minutes left. I mean, like we thought it was going to be a few more hours. And I remember like panicking, and I said, what am I doing? Like, why am I here buying a wig? My father's dying. Like, it was so confusing to me. But I realized and I said to them, I said, here, take my credit card. Somebody will pick the wig up later. And I ran to the hospital and I made it just on time. But it was like this feeling of like, what is this? I felt like my father wants me to feel good, and he wants me to take care of myself, and he wants me to still like, he doesn't want me to just be completely overwhelmed with his death. And it was like this weird emotional thing of like, did I do the right thing? Did I not do the right thing? And to this day, it haunts me a little bit. Like, what?
Go ahead.
How long was he sick for?
My father was sick for a pretty long time. He had multiple sclerosis, so it's a chronic degenerative disease. So it was like, my mother calls it a 20-year death. He was like dying for 20 years. That's pretty much what it was.
Jackie, probably you've studied this a lot because this is your expertise as a psychologist. But I think there's a difference between when you have a parent that's been struggling with the illness for a very long time versus when my mother died very quickly. She was diagnosed with cancer. 6 weeks later, she was gone. And like the last thing on my mind when she was on her deathbed was anything having to do with, I don't think I even brushed my teeth in many, many days. But I found something really to be very interesting. I had a 12-year-old sister at the time. So all of a sudden she's like this, orphan with no mother. And I had to somehow allow her to process and help her process losing her mother at 12 years old. And so I had to do a lot of research for myself. So you want to hear something interesting? And for all the viewers out there, it's possible that you might know about this and it's possible that you won't. But I think Yafa, you referenced this. You referenced how there are stages of mourning afterwards. And this is the part that I really do appreciate about the afterlife, because you're right, it does keep us connected, and it shows that, we don't just kind of, for lack of a better phrase, we bury our pain. We have stages where we have the 7 days of mourning, and then we have close to a year of mourning after that, where there are certain things that we can't do. So do you know that if you lose a child, if someone loses a child, how long do you think they have to mourn for? I lost my mother. So for 7 days, we had the Shiva process, which is quite rigid, where you really want to allow your soul to heal, to mourn, make sure that you sit down and cry. But then the time after, you have 30 days where, you have a little bit less rigid. Then you have about 11 months, a year. You have a full year afterwards, right? Where you're not allowed to buy new things. That's what Yafa was like kind of referencing to. You're not supposed to, men don't shave their faces. You're not supposed to go to these social events and party. You're not supposed to listen to certain music. If you lose a parent, you have to do those things. But if you lose a child, how long is the mourning process afterwards? So I found this out because there was a woman in my community. Her name was Sandy Jacob. If anybody's tuning in from Florida, Miami Beach, you might know who she is. Sandy Jacob lost her son in a jet ski accident. And it was so tragic because he was 18 years old at the time. And I don't know, I must have been 12 or 13 years old. He was a teenager in our community. I was a young girl. And to me, that it was like the biggest billboard message for our community that, Sandy Jacob and Alan, they had such a prominent family. They were very involved in community. And to see these very prominent people sitting on the floor as they suddenly lost their child. You had years, I had 6 weeks. They had nothing. They sent their child off to with their friend to jet ski, came back, and they never saw from them again. Awful. So I'll tell you something interesting. How long did she have to mourn? Did she have to spend a year afterwards? No. After 30 days, they go back to their everyday. Well, technically it's expanded, I guess you could say. But I'll tell you something interesting.
Right.
Why? Because it seems like a much worse tragedy. A child bearing a parent is the laws of nature. That's just how it works. But a parent bearing a child should be even more. It's a worse tragedy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And the answer is that shows you so much about what Judaism does for a human being. For a human being, it's so easy for some of us, if we have a parent that is like, I guess Yafa, I'm not saying that it was any type of relief, but we see a parent in pain for so long. And, in many ways, it's kind of human nature that we get over things at some point. But Sandy Jacob,
absolutely relief. Yeah.
Huh? I know, losing
as sad as it
is. As sad as it is, I was ready. I wanted to go back to normal life at some point because I just didn't. Sandy Jacob, I kid you not. When we would pray at the same synagogue for the High Holy Days, And when it got to certain points on Yom Kippur, she would cry loud and clear. The year after that, the year after that, Sandy Jacob will never, ever, ever heal fully from losing a child. She'll always imagine, how old is he? What age would he be? Would he have children? The what ifs, that loss of all of that potential life and is too hard. And I think that is such a I think you're saying like you felt guilty, but in many ways you are being human, because there is a built-in process where you want to heal and you're ready to heal. You're ready in some ways to move on. Jackie, you said that your dad came to you in a dream. And at that point, I was so envious of you. Because, like, my mother has I dreamt about her, but she didn't come to me in a dream. She only came to me, though, once in, like, brief. She, like, passed, and that was it. That was it. And I, like, craved to be able to have that experience. But I think it has a lot to do with our brains. You enjoy and you relish. And for me, I just kind of bring it out of my head and focusing on this, making this world a better place, teaching as much as I can. And maybe that's why I should really come.
So Adina, you bring up a perfect subject. I'm the odd one out here. Thank God I have both.
Just showing the parents that live and be well. I was about to give you that problem.
I just had the tremendous privilege. I think my mother's my biggest fan. I just had the tremendous privilege. My mother was here for almost 3 months. She left, I guess, a week and a half ago, and we were really so blessed to have her. But what is so magnificent about this topic and what is so important and why we opened it up is exactly what you said, Adina, that the value of potential. For most of us, there's so many, if we were to ask each and every one of us, what's the purpose of Judaism? We could answer many different things. And depending on what classroom we're in and what level student we're speaking or addressing, for some of my college students, they would say, if I said, what would your grandmother say the purpose of Judaism is? And they would say, my grandmother would say to marry someone Jewish. Or somebody else would say to continue our tradition. But the truth of the matter is that for me, that's the whole thing. I've gone through a lot in my young 42 years of life, I think so, and we'll get to know that as the show goes on over time. But what makes me so happy is to understand that the whole purpose of Judaism is for each and every one of us to actualize our own unique potential. And when we think about potential, Adina, just like you said, potential is potential in this world and potential for the afterlife as well. And Yafa, I don't know, because I'm not God, even though sometimes I like to think I am in my house, but I'm not. You said something about clarity, like you spoke about your father, like, should you be embarrassed? Shouldn't you be embarrassed? What should he think? I think the total opposite. When your father's looking down on you and maybe you're speaking to your kids in a way that you shouldn't, or you're being impatient, he doesn't look at you and think, Yafa, why are you acting like that? He looks at you because he is in another world, a world of total clarity, that he says, of course she's acting like that, because he has 20/20 vision in the present, in the exact moment. And that's, I think, also the biggest difference between this world and the world that we exist in now and life after death in Judaism, is that one day our souls will get to a place where we have complete clarity. And in the world that we're living in today, especially with COVID and with all the madness that ensues, what impedes our greatest happiness and joy is our lack of clarity. So starting a session, starting Souled, live and real, speaking about life and death, we're also speaking about our ability to tap into what potential is, what clarity is, what truth is. And this is what truth is. And this is what it's all about. This is what we're doing here, getting real and trying to figure out, like, what is this life that we're in? It can't be about mass shutdowns and the next month of what the government decides for us. And I just so appreciate being able to speak to you ladies. And I'm humbled that you've had to go through real life experiences and that you're able to share with all of us your views and your interactions and such personal things. Thank you, Jackie, for telling us about your father coming to you in a dream, and yeah, for the fact that you are embarrassed sometimes about the way your father perceives you. And Adina, we know how precious your mother was to you, and I'm sure the subject is probably even painful for you. But the fact that we can all sit here together and just like get it out and discuss it, this is what it's all about.
I think it makes it more real when you've gone through your own journey and you're not just talking about concepts, you know? So that's what I love about Judaism, because I didn't have it for so many years. I didn't know the Jewish view. And then all of a sudden, you have your own experience, and then you hear the Jewish view, and it makes it just so real. Like that's live and real, right? It really is real. And that's what I love about the Jewish view of a lot of things, is that it's so relevant, and it really helps you make sense of things, and gives a much bigger picture.
I have to say that I think there's only one point in my life where I think it was on. Now I feel like I'm seeming so cold and calculated by challenging this subject, but I'm looking back at the moment that my mother passed away. The moment that my mother passed away, she was on home hospice. So we had converted one of the rooms in the house to be, a comfortable place for her, because there's nothing that they could do. And it probably wasn't an accident that my siblings all were taking shifts caring for her, and I was the one who had that last shift. So I was lucky to escort her from this world to the next world, which is what Shoshana keeps referencing. And so I didn't even plan to say this live, but I remember being all night, up all night with her, and she was in tremendous pain. So it was, more morphine and trying to get all the oxygen into her. And I was giving her foot massages to try to distract her from the pain. And I was singing to her. And then at some point, we both woke up in the middle of the night, and I was singing to her again. And I remember there was some type of energy in the room. I can't describe the energy. Maybe Jackie, you can help me out with this, but it was like an energy where I felt holier than any Yom Kippur I have ever experienced in my life.
Yeah, Adina,
any experience, it was like I felt only loftiness. Like the last thing on my mind was anything but. And then we both fell asleep in the same bed in each other's arms, essentially. And she never woke up, but I did. And
wow,
there was this. I can't describe it. But I believe
feeling it with you.
It was a similar feeling to my child being born. When my child was born, it was like this surge of life where there's a burst of energy coming from a different world into the birthing room. There's no way to really describe what it's like to be in a room giving birth when you're feeling physically in shambles, but spiritually it's like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And the same feeling, I had as if there's something bigger than the physical experience that I have right now. That's what I had.
Wow.
That was really heavy. And it makes sense. It's the cycle of life. When the soul comes in and when the soul leaves, it's really that same feeling. It's that same connection between these worlds. So, wow, thank you for sharing that. That was.
I need a drink after that. I need a glass of wine.
Very right now. Yes.
Sorry.
And if there's anyone out there who is currently struggling with a loss, I would like you to put your attention to the screen right now and watch some practical ideas that we'll share with you on struggling with your loss. Welcome back. So those were just some ideas of what you can do, to practical ideas of what to do to enhance the connection between you in this world and your loved one towards their soul. So welcome back now. And I want to talk a little bit I want to continue on with our discussion about the afterlife. Can we talk a little bit about the concept of Yiskar? Because we just spoke about being able to form this bond and this connection from here in this world with our relatives who are no longer in this world. And I think that many people are familiar with the concept of Yiskar, which is a prayer that is said, 4 times a year? Right? I think it's on Yom Kippur, on Sukkot, on Pesach, and on Shavuot. Right? It's a prayer that we say to remember out loud in shul the souls of our beloved ones. So I want to talk a little bit about this because I know that there are people who feel one way about Yiskar. Some people might feel another way. Some people love Yiskar. And I would love to hear your opinions, Adina and Jackie. Some people love Yiskar. They kind of feel like this deep connection. Maybe it's a moment where they could bring down their loved one's soul a little closer to them or whatever it is. And to me, I just wonder, I feel like Yiskar is done in a group setting. It's like this communal mourning, when I personally prefer to mourn not in specific times, designated times. I want to mourn personally, privately, maybe on the anniversary of death, what we call the yahrzeit, or in different moments when I really think of and feel my father, as opposed to being in shul and it's calculated and it's in this moment you feel and everyone goes out and you're just sitting there together with the rest of the people. So to me, so this kind of idea, I don't connect with Yiskar so well, and I would love to hear from any of you what you feel about it.
It's interesting. The group setting I struggle with also. The fact that we're supposed to go to synagogue. I had a little bit of a luxury because my sister didn't want to go to synagogue, so I stayed home with her and said it at home so that I would keep her company. And then I went a few times to synagogue as well. But, Yafa, I think maybe we misunderstand what Yiskar is, or the concept of remembering. We Jews are obsessed with remembering, if you've noticed. Something that's a little bit more modern is the concept of never forget, right? I'm a grandchild of 4 Holocaust survivors. The amount of times I've heard that in my life, it would be coming out of my ears. I've also been to Poland over a dozen times. Never forget is something that we talk about. But every single holiday that we keep is pretty much about how, there's something happened in our past and we have some type of obligation to remember it, whether it's Shabbat, whether it's Pesach, whether it's Purim, whether it's Hanukkah, whether it's Shavuot, when we received the Torah. Everything is about just bringing it into the present. The Yiskar is not really something that exists in a vacuum. So I guess you really have to discover what it means to really remember something. And I think that maybe Jackie's really into mindfulness. And Jackie and I are friends, truth be told. And I have mindfulness envy. And I wish that I could just, that space, she looks like she's just so into it when she's teaching her students and everybody else is into it. And me with the ADHD brain, looking to the right of me and I look to the left of me, and I've tuned into you, Jackie. I'm sorry to say I've tuned into you. And after 3 minutes, I'm like, I have to go make dinner, or I need to prepare a class, or I need to pay a bill. I just can't focus. But I don't think
we'll do a session, Adina. We'll do a session.
Okay, okay, fine. I don't think Yiskar is mindfulness.
No.
I think prayer is mindfulness as a whole. It could be. But Yiskar, or the concept of remembering anything, is about throwing a lifeline into the past and choosing to bring it into your present. And what it does is it closes the gap between the head and the heart, which is the longest distance in the world. What you know to be true, the person that you want to be, who you come from. I mean, this parent that you had, I don't know, for my mother, she gave me so much of my genetics. She also gave me my upbringing, my nature and my nurture. Who I am today is so much a part of her. And who I would like to become is so much within the context of who she was as a mother to me. And it's so easy to kind of plow ahead in life. And just, we're such active people that we just keep moving and doing and moving and doing and moving. We'll never have a chance to be able to stop, take a moment, and bring the past into the present and create a little bit of a better awareness for ourselves. If you go to Yiskar unprepared, Yafa, do you write something down beforehand? Because if you go unprepared, yes, you might show up and it won't necessarily be meaningful. But if you go with a list, maybe, try it, of all the qualities that your father brought into your life that you wish to bring forward into the future. And then you'll be different.
I do that, I do that on his birthday. I do that on the anniversary of his death. I do that whenever I think about him throughout the days. I just feel like, you know what it is? I'll tell you what it is also. I did research on when Yiskar started, because Yiskar is only about 1,000 years old, right? That's when it was actually instituted. It was established by after the massacres about 1,000 years ago, right? After the Crusades. So what would happen was over there, as far as I understand, that unfortunately, so tragically, so many Jewish people were killed at the same time that there was no possible way for everyone to just to get up to the Torah and to say, to have what we call an aliyah and to say something, any kind of remembrance for their parents. There were just too many people. And it was all at the same time. They established Yiskar. They established a few set times in the year for them to have this opportunity to do that. So what happens is that even though, it's terrible tragedy, and as you said, Adina, we could never, ever forget anything that's happened in our history. Our history is so much a part of our present and our future. The thing is, though, that after all, it was 1,000 years ago. And I feel like we can't base our Judaism or define it on a tragedy. And for so many people, we, go to synagogue just those 4 times a year, just for Yiskar. They're going to just go, and their Judaism is defined by those tragedies. And it's almost like, as a Jew, we should be celebrating life. It's about life. And it's about life and about just all the connecting to their Judaism, the connecting to their ancestors. It's beautiful. But I feel like it can't be enough. And when Yiskar becomes such a focal point and such a basis of Judaism, it's like, is that really what Judaism is? Is it just about the darkness and the sadness? Come on Purim, come on Passover, come on Hanukkah, when there's light and fun and celebration of life, right? So that's kind of what doesn't sit so well with me about this whole idea of like a celebration of death, especially when it's on the holidays that are supposed to be happy. So that's kind of a little bit of.
I hear that, Yafa. Like I hear that focus. It's so interesting. It's so interesting to hear it because I so don't feel that way. That it's like it's for me. It's like it's just so beautiful that Judaism has included my father in all of my life as I go through my life in every holiday in a formal structure that acknowledges his soul and that he's influenced me. And to this day, I'm standing there still thinking of him and bringing him into every holiday. And not only that, but you pledge in the prayer, you pledge to give charity, you pledge to give money in the merit of their soul. So like the slide we had before, then I'm actually committing to doing something. Even if I don't think about it the rest of the year, at least those 4 times a year, I'm pledging to give money to elevate his soul and actually affect him. And the Jewish view forces me to focus on that and bring him in because he's so important. And I find that so meaningful because also when I lost him at 17, I didn't have any Jewish ideas. And I only found Jewish ideas at 30. So I had so many years of not doing that and then of doing that and feeling the difference. And I was blubbering like a baby in shul the first time. Like I went to blubbering because I could do something and he was there and I felt it and I felt like I could actually do something for him. And also the other thing you don't realize is that you also, whenever the shul empties out, you suddenly, without speaking, there's this silence of feeling all the other people that have shared that pain of losing a parent, like that share, like it's an unspoken knowing of like we're connected, and also like seeing who's there, and then there's like just like that communal feeling of like we all know what this feels like, even without speaking. Like you're in your private moment, but like. I don't know. I found it extremely comforting and very powerful and meaningful and like grateful for it. Gosh, I didn't expect to be so blubbery this time. It's like, like it happened so long ago, but it's like it's a good teariness. It's not a it's like a beautiful. Yeah, I really and then you're done and you go back to your holiday and back to like it's not. I don't feel it's this darkness. I feel like it's a moment to acknowledge and connect, and then you move on with the holiday, and everyone comes back in, and the energy changes, and and off we go again. So it's like,
it serves. I think some of us a great service.
Yeah,
but I don't think maybe It's because I don't speak to my mother on a regular basis. I really feel connected to God through prayer. I don't speak to him on a regular basis. And Yiskar is my parting line for the last 6 years since my mother passed away is always, Mommy, I hope I'm making you proud.
Wow.
And then I walk out of shul because I don't usually stay for the rest. I go home to my kids and I continue prayers at home, but that's always my parting line. I hope I'm making you proud.
Adina, for those people who, so many of the women tuning into it tonight might feel like a little bit of sadness, shame, guilt, perhaps. What if they've never said Yiskar for a loved one? Or what if they've never said Shiva for their loved one? Like, what happens then?
Can I just say something on that? It's interesting that you mentioned that, because the truth is that I hardly had a Shiva for my father.
I did neither. I have nothing.
Well, you had nothing. You didn't know, right? Because you didn't know about Shiva.
Yeah.
So you didn't know. I knew, but I didn't have, because he passed away 2 days before Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, wow.
So that's the Shiva, and I only had 1 day because I was traveling. I was with my family in New York, and I lived in Mexico at the time. So I want you to know it was difficult, because the whole idea of Shiva is it's an amazing thing. Shiva allows you. Let's explain what Shiva is. Shiva is when you have 7 days of mourning from the time that our loved one passes on. We have 7 days where we stay at home and we have to sit down on the floor or on a low cushion, not on a high chair. We don't shout. Really, this real feeling of mourning. And the truth is that Shiva is actually a real blessing, because it allows you to be in touch with the feelings that you're supposed to have. What Shiva is it creates a space for you to connect with the proper feelings. And this is actually the theme of Judaism, that there is a time and place for everything, and it gives us space to have that. So Shiva teaches us that you should cry for a loved one. You should mourn. You should grieve. Someone who lost a loved one is not in the mood of showering and of getting all glamorous. So lean into that feeling. Lean into that emotion. It's healthy. It's important. Jewish law wants us to recognize the losses, but to really, really feel the feelings. And I personally feel like I didn't have enough time to do that. It was hard for me. And what's so amazing about Jewish law in regards to mourning and in regards to feelings in general is that, as I mentioned, it gives us this space, but it teaches us how to have control over those emotions. Because we have a week of mourning, which is like the heaviest period of the mourning. But then we have a 30-day period of like a level lower, which is what we call the shloshim. It's the 30 days of still mourning, but a little bit less. And then we have a whole year of mourning, which is again a step lower. So it helps us transition back into life of this high level of mourning, a little bit lower, and now you can kind of get back into normal life. So that's really what it's all about. So somebody who doesn't experience this could be, you could experience this at any point. Again, you want to use Yiskar as that time to experience what you didn't during Shiva. Well, that's what it's there for. But make sure you also go to synagogue on Passover and on Hanukkah and on Purim and experience the life and the light and the reason as well, not only the Yiskar, right? Do you want to use the anniversary of death, what we call the Yartzeit, as your moment to really feel and connect? You have this opportunity, we have it constantly. So if you didn't have it at the time, it doesn't mean that there isn't a space for you to share it whenever you're ready to share it.
I want to say I'm really inspired by the three of you. And I know that my mother's tuning in. Let's all count. Let's do a competition. How many times each of us cry on the show? We'll keep a tally. Like, how long can we go one for one? Because I think I'm going to be the first one. But I really am inspired by the three of you, because when in shul, when everybody goes out when we all go out to not say Yiskar because our parents are still alive, I often reflect on how blessed I am to have my parents and what I want to actually do as a result of still having my parents here with me. But tonight, that only happens like several times a year. You ladies have really inspired me that I myself, with parents living, with loved ones, this conversation has really inspired me to not only so much appreciate my own parents and what we still have here when we have it, but to also recognize the value of the here and now in really seizing the moment to let the people in our lives, our loved ones in our lives, know how much we care for them, how much we love them, and how much we desire to have a relationship with them, so that one day when they pass on to the next world, we're not communicating via our actions here, so that their souls can be elevated. Thank you for sharing your personal stories.
That's so beautiful.
It was really beautiful.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And Jackie, I just wanted to say that I love the perspective that you shared on, after I explained my perspective on Yiskar, I wanted to let you know that I appreciated the perspective that you shared. That was really nice. About how you feel like you bring your father in.
Yeah, it's so fascinating how we all hearing everyone else's ideas. I love it, and how we relate to the same thing. So we never really talk about this stuff necessarily. So, okay. So basically, I want to put out a challenge. Every week, we're going to put out a soul challenge for people to apply some of the stuff we're discussing. Some of the stuff. So this is what I love about the afterlife, Yiskar, all this stuff, is actually to do something that will elevate any loved one, anyone. It could be an auntie, an uncle, a cousin, a friend, a parent, a grandparent, anyone. But do something that is considered a mitzvah or a good deed with the intent, because intention is everything, that you are elevating your loved one's soul, right? So it can be give charity. You could be doing just a favor for someone, do some kindness, some act of kindness. You could learn some Torah or spiritual ideas in their merit, You could, what else can you do? Say a prayer for them. You do something with the intent of elevating the soul, and then join us on the Soul Facebook group to share what you wanted, how it was for you, and how you felt doing it, and what it was like. And we're going to have the whole community. There are hundreds of girls over there that are absolutely amazing and inspired women that we're sharing in our Soul Facebook community, which we'd love you to join. And we will be talking about the Soul Challenge every week. We want to hear from you. We want to hear your thoughts, your experiences, your questions, your comments, your protests. We want to hear, how it is for you, and we want for you to hear each other and talk to each other as well. We'll all be on there, and we'll also be bringing on some reflection gems the next week of any amazing stories or things that happen, because we've seen that people have some incredible experiences. So we don't just want to be out there talking. We want to hear from you guys. Yeah.
You have to be a student, or a college student, or a YP to join, or can anybody join our Souled community?
No way, I'm joining. I'm joining right now.
Anyone can join. Anyone can join. Anyone can join. So follow us on Insta at Get Souled. Join our Facebook group. What?
Spell it out. What's the name of the Facebook group? Spell it out for everyone so we know.
Same as on your screen. SOULED. That's it. Souled.
Okay. That's it. Souled Facebook group. Okay.
Yep. Just ask to join, and we'll add you. We'll add you.
And send us your feedback, everybody. We want to answer your questions and address your concerns as we celebrate Souls live and real.
Send in what that you can talk about.
Place where we can continue the conversation.
Awesome.
So next week,
and next week, we'll see you all.
My personal favorite subject. Sorry that I bashed this subject. I happen to say that I enjoyed speaking about it. I think it was very real, especially because there's so many people, like I opened up, so many people around the country that are struggling with the loss of loved one. One of my good friends actually lost his mother within 2 weeks. And I think this was an appropriate subject, so I hope that you forgive me for bashing it. But next week, tune in to my personal favorite subject, which is love, dating, and marriage. Same time next week. And in the meantime, until we see you then, remember to keep it real. Over and out.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.